Hello, and welcome to Social Welfare Policy SW 419 of the Social Work Program here at Kuiper College. I am speaking to you remotely due to our current social situation. I hope that these little videos will be informative and will help you grasp the concept and the importance of social welfare policy and its relationship to social work. Policy is a macro process for social work. A number of social workers want to get into government, into writing policy, to be lobbying for the poor, the oppressed, to make laws that are just and put forth information to legislators to help our social condition. According to our Code of Ethics, we are asked in our last section of the Code of Ethics, 6.01, we are asked to relate to the broader society. In that, it says social workers should engage in social and political action that seeks to ensure that all people have equal access to the resources, employment, services, and opportunities they require to meet their basic human needs and to develop fully. That's in section 4A of 6.01. So we are mandated, we are called to be part of this social insurance, this social safety net of government trying to help those that it governs, period. When we say the word social welfare, a lot of people get kind of a negative connotation to that word, and they think of handouts, food stamps, things that a lot of people feel are undeserved in society, but in actuality are very critical to those that need them. In fact, social welfare really means social well-being. It's the system of health, economic benefits, the systems we have in an industrialized society that help us to it is the state of being or doing well, the condition of health, prosperity, happiness, and well-being. This has to do with our economic conditions and our quality of life. A nation has many programs, benefits, and services that it offers its citizenship. These are used to help people meet their social, economic, educational, and health needs. They are fundamental to the maintenance of society. Now, many third world countries do not have these benefits. We call this a lack of a social safety net or social insurance. Social insurance, for example, helps our elderly, like Social Security and Medicare. It also provides different programs like the Civil Rights Act. It gives different liberties to individuals in society. And these are things that help a society to grow and to help those that are oppressed, underprivileged, or fall under bad times. Social welfare policy is the organized response or lack of a response to a social issue or problem. It implies a position to act or not to act on an important social issue or problem on behalf of society. When government does not act on a certain social problem, that actually assumes a position. They are choosing not to act, not to put a policy through that will help a certain segment of the population. Social welfare policy refers to the principles, the activities, or framework for action by the government to ensure a socially defined level of individual, family, and community well-being. Social welfare policy is an organized system of laws, programs, benefits, and services which individuals and groups attain to satisfy a certain standard of living, of health, of relationships needed to develop their full capacities. A full capacity, or as we would look at, potential or empowerment. Social welfare policies are written into legislation and have judicial decisions made into laws. They are also part of an organization. When you are in your internship, your agency will have policies, and these policies are to be followed. They are the order, the government of your particular agency. It guides your agency into figuring out what to do, their purpose, their mission, and also helps to guard you against liability issues, hopefully keeping you on the straight and narrow in regards to the code of ethics. Usually, social welfare policy gets enacted when there is a social problem. Now, what makes a social problem? A social problem is one that is determined critical by a majority of people or socially. It also can be determined by a powerful minority. And this becomes the powerful end of pushing a law through to benefit maybe a small group or a majority group. Now, how does something become a social problem? Usually it's in regards to critical mass. Is this a critical mass issue? For example, if foster care was not a very well thought of position or institution, and we wanted to go back to orphanages, and the majority of people and researchers and social workers felt this was a good idea, there'd be a big push and maybe legislation would change. People in power usually can get what they want, and they want to keep the status quo or whatever is benefiting their sense of privilege. For example, slavery, segregation, issues that, let's use the example of child abuse. Now, for many years, it took 100 years from the Mary Ellen case in 1874 to enact a national child abuse registry and child abuse protective service organization. It took a long time. Americans did not want the government interfering in their families. And it took the work of Helfer and Kemp, two doctors that in the 1960s put together the battered child syndrome, and Americans started to think, wait a minute, we need to do something about child abuse. This started a national child rights movement in America. This movement then became a reality in the legislature during 1974 when America put together the Child Protection Act. And this was an act that really made social workers and doctors and teachers and a whole variety of others as mandated reporters. It also set up the Child Protective Service. Part of another example that fits this situation is Megan's Law. Now, you're going to do a little paper on Megan's Law, and America had just had enough of sexual abuse, sexual offense towards children. And children were no longer seen as just property of their parents, but were determined to have governmental support. Well, Megan's Law went really fast, 2 years. It went into legislation, it was produced, and it still had a couple issues to it, but we had just had enough and did not know what to do with sex offenders. And this produced the Sex Offender Registry, and it was critical mass. People felt that this was an important thing to implement, to have legislation, national, federal legislation, so that every child could be protected. So as you look at weeks 1, 2, and 3, you'll notice that we also include ideology, values, beliefs, because policy is really centered around a person's beliefs. If you do not believe in segregation, you would not support those laws. If you did not believe in helping those that are alcoholic or have substance abuse, you would not develop or support those types of laws. All of policy is based on a political ideology. Some of you are Republicans, some of you are Democrats, some of you are independents, some of you take a more radical approach. Well, this will determine how you look at policy. Generally, social work tends to fall more into the democratic side because they promote and support a lot of government money to take care of the vulnerable and populations at risk in society. That doesn't mean that you have to be a Democrat. Let me make that clear. You may be fiscally or moneyly conservative, and you may be more fiscally conservative, and that's what the Republicans tend to choose. And you might feel more like government, take your hands off of my business, which is more of that independence that Republicans have. They call them social conservatives. You may be more liberal in the sense of having equal rights, helping groups to find their own place in society, and raising taxes. Democrats raise taxes for money that they give to those that they feel that government should take care of. Basically, you have two sides. One is the Republicans tend to feel more of personal responsibility and that people should do for themselves. And Democrats feel that society is government's responsibility and that government should be the impetus to helping those that live within this society. In conclusion, what does policy do for us? Basically, policy enacts practice. It guides the practice that we do as social workers and the programs that we work in. It shapes and delineates what the social worker does, how he or she relates to the client, group, and the manner in which discretion is allowed and exercised. Policy provides the priorities to determine time and resources. Policy shapes the structure of the professional's role. It shapes the functioning at the program level, setting the agency's direction, the content of services, and the tone and quality of the milieu in which the work is accomplished and the services provided. Social workers experience power when they are aware of policy and engage in policy analysis. Thank you very much.